Hello everyone, this is Pilot from the Scholars of Kiora and welcome to another mock review. In today's review we'll be taking a look at my Self-Moc Toa Tere, so let's start by going over his backstory. Rather mysteriously, Tere doesn't know much about who he is or where he came from, as his first memories were of his awakening on Lake Romagna. As a Matoran, Lake Romagna was Tere's home, where he lived alongside the other Matoran in his village and the lone Toa who protected it. Ever since Tere had first arrived at the village, he took up an occupation as a hunter, which while often dangerous is one of the most respected positions amongst the Lake Romagnian Matoran. Alongside his squad mates Howie and Sakurai, Tere would hunt dangerous creatures to feed the village, and search for comatose Matoran along the way. This job earned Tere much success, but soon disaster would strike for the members of the village. Their Toa protector Kiora had been defeated and killed by a strange robotic being who the Matoran referred to as the Wraith. Kiora's death hit Tere quite hard, as him and Kiora had become close over the course of Tere's life in the village. However, before Kiora's death, she left Tere a device called the Wayfinder, which held a map to an unknown location on Lake Romagna. Tere, alongside the other Matoran villagers, would journey there and discover it to be an ancient Toa temple, which Tere would in turn make his transformation into a Toa. From there, Tere, his Toa team, and the other Lake Romagnians would escape and eventually arrive back on Spherus Magna. Since the fall of Pterodax, Spherus Magna had grown to become an extremely advanced civilization, ruled by a faction known as the Matoran Empire. With a new conflict on the horizon, Tere and the other members of his team are recruited into the Empire, and tasked with hunting down a dangerous rebel leader. Tere and his team might assume this to be an easy job, after all they have been hunters for essentially their whole life, but this simple job will quickly evolve into something much greater. After his arrival on Spherus Magna, Tere would receive a new set of gear from the Matoran Empire to aid him in hunting down his target. This included Tere's katana as well as his very own suit of Mark V Hyperion-powered assault armor, the standard issue for all Toa in the post-Reformation era. Unlike normal armor that only serves to protect the user, the Hyperion armor is able to boost Tere's physical capabilities beyond that of a normal Toa, which are further enhanced by the augmentations he must receive to use said armor in the first place. Tere's specific suit of Hyperion has been built to maximize mobility, making him extremely fast and agile. This is most directly seen in the large petal-like wings that bloom out of Tere's back when he activates them. These wings are lined with a small series of thrusters, which allow Tere to move faster and perform many different acrobatic maneuvers. Tere's Hyperion armor suit also features a version of the adaptive Kanohi Miru from the Axelara T9. However, for the purposes of Tere's story, this mask has been reimagined as a helmet for his suit that can utilize up to 3 different Kanohi powers. Tere is able to load any set of 3 Kanohi onto this helmet for him to use, his typical choices being shielding from the Kanohi Hau, elemental energy, and vision from his original mask, the Kanohi Ruru. As for abilities, Tere, being a Toa of Plantlife, is able to control and manipulate plants in a multitude of ways. His most common uses of his elemental powers are coating his katana in a layer of corrosive poison that can eat away at an enemy's armor and creating vines that Tere can use to further his mobility and latch onto enemies. Due to the Kanohi power of elemental energy in his helmet, Tere is also able to replenish his elemental powers quicker and use them more often as a result. Now to transition to talking about the Moc itself, Tere stands at around 11 inches tall, making him one of the tallest Mocs I've built to date. This is a pretty significant difference in height from my usual Toa builds, where usually around 8 or 9 inches. This difference in height was intentional, however, as in universe a Toa clad in full Hyperion armor will usually clock in somewhere around 8 to 8.5 feet tall, whereas a regular Toa is typically only 7 feet tall. Overall, Tere has 43 points of articulation, 1 in the head/neck, 2 in every one of his 4 wings, 4 in each shoulder, 2 in each bicep, 1 in each elbow, 1 in each wrist, 3 in each hand, 4 in the torso, 1 in each hip, 2 in each of the knees, and 1 in each ankle. Obviously this is quite a lot of articulation, perhaps more than a Moc really needs, but having such a high amount of posability allows Tere to achieve more dynamic stances and helps to make him more expressive. For Tere's construction I used a modified version of the Bionicle frame, which is typically used to build larger Titan-sized Mocs that are extremely posable. Tere's version of this frame, which I have dubbed the Hyperion frame, was changed to be much smaller than the regular Bionicle frame to fit in better with the heights of my other Mocs. This required a bit of experimenting to get right, as when shrinking down the size of the frame I needed to make sure everything stayed proportional and that it didn't sacrifice too much posability in the process. Another technique I used on Tere was utilizing tire pieces to fill in the gaps in the CCBS bones. I've used this technique on numerous Mocs at this point, and by filling in the gaps it can help to give a cleaner, more streamlined look to a build. And while we're on the topic of CCBS, I also used a lot of the armor shell pieces on Tere as well. To me they make it look more like Tere is wearing a suit of armor, which is not only accurate to his representation in universe, but it also helps to further differentiate his appearance from that of a normal Toa. Tere has two main sources of inspiration, which contributed both to his character in the story and his appearance as a Moc. First are the Spartan super soldiers from Halo, which as you can probably imagine was where I got the idea for Tere's Hyperion armor suit, as it's very similar in concept to the Mjolnir armor the Spartans wear. In addition, the Spartans were also the inspiration for some parts of Tere's personality. Then secondly are the pilots from the Titanfall games, who became the inspiration for many of Tere's abilities. I talked before about the vines that Tere often creates with his elemental powers to better traverse environments, which I imagine him using in a similar fashion to the grapple hook ability from Titanfall 2. Tere's other movement capabilities were also inspired by the ones the pilots have in-game, as the thrusters on his armor allowed Tere to wall run, double jump, and perform many other maneuvers as well. And with that, we have arrived at the end of this mock review. If you enjoyed learning more about the design and story of Tere, then please consider giving this video a like and subscribing to our channel. I'd also recommend you check out each of our own channels as well, which are all linked in the description down below. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.